She vanished on a Tuesday. Her phone kept sending messages for 3 years. The unsolved disappearance of Brianna Maitland. On the night of March 19, 2004, a 19-year-old girl left work and drove into the darkness of a Vermont back road. Her car was found the next morning, half buried into the side of an abandoned farmhouse. Engine off. No keys, no purse, no Brianna. She has never been found. But here's what makes this case different from every other missing person story you've heard. The messages didn't stop. For years after she vanished, someone or something kept reaching out through her accounts. Investigators couldn't explain it. Her family couldn't explain it. And to this day, nobody can. This is the story of Brianna Maitland. And the deeper you go, the stranger it gets. Brianna Maitland was not the kind of girl people forgot easily. She was 19. Funny, headstrong, with a laugh her mother described as too big for any room she walked into. She had recently moved into her own apartment in Sheldon, Vermont. A small farming town so quiet that strangers noticed strangers. She was working at the Black Lantern Inn, a historic restaurant in Montgomery, Vermont. It was only her second shift there. She was building a life, making plans. On the night of March 19, 2004, Brianna finished her shift, said goodbye to her coworkers, and walked out to her 1985 Oldsmobile Delta 88, a big distinctive car. Impossible to miss. She was headed home. A 15-minute drive through rural back roads. She never arrived. Her parents, William and Kelly Maitland, didn't panic immediately. Brianna was 19. She had her own life. But when she didn't show up to work the next day and her phone rang out, unease crept in. It turned into full terror the following morning. On Route 118, a quiet stretch of road in Richford, Vermont, a passerby spotted something alarming. A large beige car had been driven or pushed backwards into the side of the Dutchburn farmhouse, an abandoned, crumbling building that locals already whispered about. Inside the car, no Brianna, no keys, no purse, no phone. But on the back seat, one piece of clothing she had been wearing that night. Here is where investigators first hit a wall, because nothing about that car made sense. The vehicle had been driven backwards into the farmhouse wall hard enough to shatter the rear windshield and push the boards inward. But the damage suggested the car had been moved there deliberately, parked into the building, not crashed. There were no skid marks, no sign of panic braking, no blood. If Brianna had been in an accident, she would have called for help. If she had broken down, she would have walked to a nearby house. There were farmhouses close enough, people who would have answered a knock on the door at that hour. Instead, silence. The farmhouse itself had a dark reputation. Locals said it had been used for drug activity. Some said worse things happened there. The building had been a gathering point for people who didn't want to be found. Investigators searched the property thoroughly. They found evidence of recent activity inside the farmhouse. Footprints, disturbed debris. But they couldn't definitively link anything to Brianna. What they found outside was even more troubling. Tire tracks in the mud suggested that another vehicle had been at the scene. Someone had been there that night. Someone who left before anyone noticed. And then there was this, the fish. In Brianna's car, investigators found a brown paper bag containing a fresh fish. It hadn't spoiled yet when officers arrived, meaning either the car had been there only a short time, or the temperature that night had been cold enough to preserve it. Nobody has ever explained the fish. Nobody knows where it came from. It has never been publicly connected to any person or location. Investigators quickly identified several people of interest, but the case hit a wall of silence that felt almost organized. The area around Richford, Vermont, sat near the Canadian border. Law enforcement had long suspected that the region was a corridor for drug trafficking, marijuana, and later, harder substances moving between Quebec and the United States. Several people connected to Brianna or to the farmhouse had known ties to this network. One name that circulated was a man who had briefly been Brianna's boyfriend. Someone investigators described as connected to individuals involved in cross-border criminal activity. He was interviewed. He denied involvement. He was never charged. But here's where it gets more complicated. Multiple witnesses came forward in the months after Brianna's disappearance, claiming they had seen her, or someone matching her description, in the company of unfamiliar men in the days before she vanished. These accounts were never fully corroborated. One woman claimed she had seen Brianna at a gas station, looking frightened, in a car she didn't recognize. Another source told investigators that Brianna had discovered something she wasn't supposed to know. Something related to the drug activity in the area. Something that made her dangerous to the wrong people. This theory that Brianna stumbled into something and was silenced has never been proven. But it has never been disproven either. The FBI became involved. Vermont State Police worked the case for years. Tips came in and dried up. Searches were conducted. The farmhouse was examined again and again. Nothing. And then the digital mystery began. This is the part of Brianna's case that investigators have struggled to explain publicly. In the years following her disappearance, Brianna's online accounts, her social media profiles, messaging apps, showed intermittent activity. Messages were sent. Posts appeared. In some cases, responses were given to people who reached out, not realizing who or what they thought they were speaking to. Some of this activity was eventually explained away as account glitches, memorial pages created by others, or automated platform behavior. Investigators and platform companies offered technical explanations. But Brianna's family was not satisfied. And some of the contacts made through those accounts, the specificity of certain responses, the timing of certain messages, did not fit the technical explanations they were given. There are people who believe that whoever took Brianna had access to her devices. That for a period of time someone was using her digital identity deliberately, either to monitor who was searching for her or to throw investigators off. This theory has never been confirmed by law enforcement. What has been confirmed is that as recently as the mid-2000s, the Maitland case received tips connected to digital activity that originated from Brianna's accounts, activity that no official agency has fully accounted for. The FBI still lists this case as active, and Brianna's mother, Kelly, still sits by the phone. Here is what 20 years of investigation has confirmed. Brianna Maitland left work at approximately 11 p.m. on March 19, 2004. Her car was found the following morning on Route 118 in Richford, Vermont. She was not inside it. No body has ever been recovered. No one has ever been charged. Here is what remains unknown. Where Brianna went after her car was left at that farmhouse. Whether she left willingly or was taken. Who drove the second vehicle. What the fish meant. What the digital activity after her disappearance truly was. And whether, as some investigators privately believe, she encountered something connected to the criminal networks operating near that border. There is a $30,000 reward still active for information leading to the resolution of Brianna's case. The Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services and the FBI are both still accepting tips. If you have ever driven Route 118 in Richford, Vermont, if you have ever heard a name whispered in connection with this story, if you know something, and also the number is 1-800-CALL-FBI, Brianna Maitland would be 39 years old today. Her mother still keeps her room the way she left it, and somewhere in rural Vermont, on a back road most people have never heard of, an old farmhouse still stands, with a hole in its wall the shape of a car that should never have been there. If you know something, say something. Subscribe for a new case every week, and leave a comment below. What do you think happened to Brianna Maitland?